so this was really a lot of fun. And then once I got to know Dan real good, we really had a lot of fun. I mean, he's got enough footage to make a mini series, you know. It was amazing. I think 4 years he followed me around. We went traveling to Florida and all over the place. We had a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to ask you about how you became involved in taxidermy overall as well, and what really interested you in exploring that, especially with like this Bigfoot, and what that experience was like for you becoming involved in this world overall as
Well, you know, taxidermy is a weird job. I tell everybody, you don't find it; it seems to find you.
well.
I've always been an artist at heart, but I also love the outdoors, and I was raised in a family where 6 kids, where my father used to go out into the woods in the fall and try and get a moose to feed everybody. And so I would follow him on hunting trips, and I just fell in love with the whole lifestyle, the whole culture. And so it just branched out. It became more of an obsession for me, you know, in all facets. And then of course animals and behavior and artistic endeavors and things like that, they all combined to give me this wonderful, rich life.
And overall, I wanted to ask you both about the experience of having other people join in on the film. Were you both interested in maybe hearing other people's points of view who are in the world of taxidermy as well, and what that experience was like of maybe securing the other interviews for the film as well?
Yeah, you know, a lot of people got cut, you know, just like any documentary. And it tried to kind of pare it down, you know, into just as few characters as possible. And when those characters overlap, you know, when they all happen to be in the same room, or, you know, when they work together, it really helps tie things together. But it, you know, it was important for me to show, like, you know, the people that Ken was teaching taxidermy, is, you know, serving as a mentor to, and then also, you know, people that are his peers, and then, you know, also having a taxidermist that had a Bigfoot sighting, what I think really kind of came in handy and kind of tied things together nicely.
And what was it like really collaborating with the other people involved in the world? Were you both interested in really hearing their experiences as well? And what was it like really deciding what you would maybe interview them about and really speak to them about for the film as well?
Well, I usually just would start off, you know, getting their background as taxidermists. You know, I found that in a lot of cases, you know, they all started like, you know, in their like early teenage years. And then, you know, Ken's kind of famous in the taxidermy world, and most people knew who he was. So, you know, getting their opinion on Ken and that background, and then, you know, talking about competition and things like that. That's, you know, it's kind of a tight taxidermy world. You know, these taxidermists mostly work alone all the time. So when they get together for these conventions, it can get kind of wild. And, you know, that's usually where I would find them, you know, meet them the first time.
And Ken, I wanted to also ask you, was there anything specifically about your history in taxidermy that you wanted to discuss in the film? And what was that experience like for you of really chronicling your experience with the Bigfoot and just with your work in general overall as well?
I think my experience has been a little bit unique in the taxidermy industry in North America, just because I'm outside of the U.S. So there was a lot, like in America, you can order a form, for example, from catalogs and have it there within 2 or 3 days. But I mean, for me, it's 2 or 3 weeks, and then it's too expensive. So I was forced to build a lot of things myself just because of time and money. And I think that really helped me, and it pushed me into an area where I was able to, you know, do things like look at photographs from the Patterson film and build a Bigfoot, because I was so used to building forms from 2-dimensional reference. And that's actually why they hired me at the Smithsonian. So I had a little bit of a unique experience because of that. I was forced to build things that a lot of other people just buy. And so, you know, it gave me a little bit different perspective, and it also put me into a position of being a mentor and teaching people to do those sort of things. So, you know, but as far as the whole industry and the whole, I sure don't consider myself any better or worse than anybody else. You know, I just do my part and try to make an honest living.
And do you both hope that the film will help really raise awareness and interest in taxidermy and maybe raise interest in the general public who don't really know too much about it and overall, and what's that experience been like of really promoting the film to help raise that awareness as well?
Excuse me. Well, part of the reason I wanted to make a movie about taxidermy is I wanted to show that, it's a real complex art form, and a lot of people don't understand that. And, there's been a kind of a resurgence in taxidermy among, hipsters or younger people, I think, especially girls. And so, I thought there was kind of a little bit of a built-in audience there, but, also, for the people that had no experience with taxidermy, were, a lot of them would tell me, oh, like, I don't want to see a movie about taxidermy. That's gross. And I would say, well, that's why you need to see the movie, so that you understand that it's not really gross, And so, yeah, I hope that, I think it's been pretty successful in that way so far. A lot of people tell me, they had no idea what was involved in taxidermy. They just thought people, stuffed it with paper or something. So, there is a lot more that goes into it. It's very complex.
I have to say, one of the things that I really enjoy about the movie, other than, it's weird to watch a movie about yourself, but Dan was able to make the movie very accessible to everybody without it being preachy or pushing some sort of an agenda. And you see a lot of it in movies, with documentary and just mainstream entertainment nowadays, and it's a real turnoff for a lot of people. I think early on in the movie, he made it quite clear that you can laugh. You don't have to take the subject matter seriously if you don't want to, but he presented it in such a way that it wasn't invasive. It was entertaining, and so it gave people, the right to think about it however they want and to enjoy it at the same time. It's a very, very good way that he presented taxidermy and even the subject of Bigfoot to the general public. The movie doesn't take itself too seriously, and I love that about the movie. I really do.
And speaking about that, were you both interested in incorporating some humor about the subject into the film and kind of make it more lighthearted? And what was that experience of not making it like too serious, like you mentioned?
Well, if I'm going to make a movie, it's going to be funny. There's just no way. I'm not going to do a really serious, heavy movie. And that's probably one reason I was drawn to Ken. He's entertaining, he's funny. And so if I'm going to make a movie about Ken, it's going to be funny, And I think early on, Ken was a little serious, and I had to tell him to loosen up. It's like, you're a funny guy, be funny, people want to be entertained. And that's why he's a natural subject, I think.
Mm-hmm. And Dan, I also wanted to ask you, going back to when you first decided to make the film, how much knowledge did you have about taxidermy in general? Did you do any particular research, and what was that process like for you to really familiarize yourself with the subject as well?
Well, before I met Ken, I really didn't know very much about it. I'd read some books about it and had done a lot of research on the internet. And had done, I think, really just one squirrel before I met Ken, and it was pretty terrible. Of course, it had been run over by a car, so it was already in rough shape. But hanging out with Ken, I learned a ton about taxidermy, and of course, I learned a lot about Bigfoot too. So Ken's a good teacher, and whenever I would ask questions, he'd always, was very generous with his information, and it's fun to watch him work because he's been doing it for so long. I struggle to stitch up, 2 inches of fur, and I watch Ken and he talks to me in the camera while he's sewing. I'm like, how do you do that? And he said, well, I've been doing it for 30 years or 40 years. So, it's kind of second nature, that's his job. That's what he does all day. So, it was fun. It was really satisfying to get to learn all about the craft at the same time of making the movie. And sometimes, I would just go watch the footage that I'd already shot, and I'm, busy worrying about sound and framing the camera, and I miss some of the things, and I'd go back and I'd get to watch what he's doing, and I would learn a ton just from watching what, he was doing. So yeah, it was cool. It was a really fun experience.
Mm-hmm. And speaking about framing the camera and those visual aspects, I also wanted to ask you about the cinematography and what that process was like of figuring out how you wanted to shoot the film overall as well.
Well, a lot of times I shoot with two cameras, so it's it's tough without a crew. It's easy to miss things, so you always kind of have to have one eye and one going in one direction and one going in the other. But it was fun. The shop, a lot of it takes place in the shop, and that's kind of a tricky environment, but it was bright, so that helped. The lighting was good. Yeah, it's there's that Ken's shop is so visually interesting that it's almost always easy to frame something cool there. There's always going to be a walrus or a polar bear or something in the background, and you just shift a little bit so you get a little bit of that extra stuff in the frame.
Mm-hmm. And also, I wanted to ask about editing the film overall and what that experience was like of figuring out how you wanted the final version of the film to look and just really editing the movie overall as well.
Well, as my first movie, it was tough, editing. There's so much footage and paring it down and deciding, what should be in there. It can be real tricky. I had a lot of help editing, so luckily I had somebody get me almost the whole way there. But it's one of those things you could work on forever. It's at some point you just gotta decide that it's finished.
Mm-hmm. And also, I wanted to ask about producing the film and what really inspired you to also serve as one of the producers and how you maybe balanced like directing with producing as well on set.
Well, it's just kind of producing by necessity. I funded the film almost entirely myself, and I just pretty much did everything myself. At the end, I brought on another producer to help me get it finished, but as an independent filmmaker, you pretty much wear every hat. You don't really have a choice.
Mm-hmm. And I also wanted to ask you both about the film's upcoming release on VOD and digital and what that experience has been like of figuring out how you were going to release it and really connecting with audiences digitally now, with many films now doing the purely digital release in this era of filmmaking as well.
Yeah, it hasn't quite been a week yet, so I'm kind of learning as I go. There's so many films out there now, and nobody's doing a theatrical release. So in a way, we're all on even footing, but at the same time, it's kind of easy to get lost in the clutter. But we had plans for more festivals and some theatrical, and the pandemic kind of shot all that stuff down. So we kind of went straight to digital a little bit quicker, and it's exciting now to know that everybody that wants to see it can see it, and it's out there. So it'll be interesting to see, what the numbers are as they start coming in.
Ken, I wanted to ask you about that experience as well for you of having the movie come out and maybe like how you've connected with audiences who are interested in seeing your work and what that experience has been like for you of seeing the movie come out now as well.
Well, it's been pretty low key for me. Obviously, I know a lot of people in the taxidermy industry. There's a lot of people that really want to see it, and I've been getting some feedback from friends, especially that said some of the comments have been even if you weren't in it, I would have liked this movie, which is good. but yeah, I think it's going to be slow to take off. It just it's gonna. What happens is you get two people that like it, and then they tell their friends, and next thing you know, you have 10 people watch it, and I think word of mouth has to get out on it, and but in the beginning, it's taxidermists and Bigfooters are curious about it, and then I think once they watch it, they realize its entertainment value, and then it's the kind of movie you can recommend to anyone regardless. So it's slow. It just started, I'm way up here in the middle of nowhere. I don't get a lot of feedback, but I get it a little bit.
Would you both be interested in working together again on another project, maybe exploring other aspects of taxidermy or other projects overall? And what's that experience been like of figuring out where maybe you go from here now that the documentary's out.
I think if Ken would just move somewhere in a warmer climate, we could work together again anytime.
He just has to offer some of that Kansas City barbecue, and I'll go down there.
Yeah, yeah.
I would love to work with Dan again. I would work with him anytime. Anything he needed, I think he could count on me.
Yeah, Ken and I have a lot of fun hanging out together, so it would be a natural for us to kind of collaborate on something else. So we'll see what happens.
I think that was mainly it, but thank you both again for taking the time out to speak with me. I appreciate it.
Well, thanks, Karen. It was fun.
Thanks. It was fun speaking with you.